Some of, not all.
Doug's got his cheat sheet right there. Of the bands
I
he
saw
played
it,
with.
yeah.
because my brain ain't there anymore.
Was it ever?
Yeah.
Not really. Too many parties on the bus.
Yeah. There's never too many parties on the bus.
So I wanted to ask you, Tim,
Oh boy.
where do you run team trivia? Because he runs team trivia.
Oh, okay.
We used to hit that up every week. We were renting a house on Hanover Street in Ferry. We'd walk down to Belmont Brewworks every week and compete for those gift cards.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So team trivia, I'm Tuesdays 7 to 9 out at Generations. And then I'm at Thursdays, I'm at the Alpha from the same time, 7 to 9, Alpha Tavern. We just started this past Thursday.
Okay.
So tomorrow will be our second show out there. We're at Generations. Like I say, every Tuesday, 7 to 9, we're averaging right around 85 or so. Most we had has been 121.
Really?
Last night I had 88.
That's
so
huge.
we've been getting big
I
crowds.
think our pool was like 20 max.
Yeah, there was only
That's who we were getting.
I think 5 teams at the most. So
Wow.
25 people.
And then when the fall comes back around, it looks like we'll start Music Bingo back up again up at Permanis. I was there for 34 weeks
Now,
doing Music Bingo.
what's Music Bingo for those that don't know?
Okay, so we got 120 different genres of music we can pick from, and you've got a bingo card. You get one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that's got 2 bingo cards on it. There are 75 songs per genre that are randomized on your bingo card, and then I hit random on the music player, and there's a
nice.
30-second clip that plays. So you only have 30 seconds to realize if you know the song and mark it on your card with your dauber.
So if you don't recognize a song,
You
it.
lose it. But a lot of times I have people come up and go, I think I have a bingo, and they don't, but they do on what they thought they had it on. They're wrong, but they actually had it on where they missed another one. So it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. We
I
did
got to
really
try
well
that.
with
I've
it.
never done that. Have you done it?
no.
Yeah, we got to do that.
I'm fishing a place for the summer to fill the hole. I'm even willing. I even told people, I said, I'll give you 1 week a month or 2 weeks a month, whatever. I'll work it out with whoever. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my Wednesdays doing that.
Yeah, that's
that was
cool.
Well, last night's trivia, that one of the teams was named Peter's Lovers, not Peter Lovers, but Peter's Lovers. And obviously they're trying to play into the innuendo, but no one caught at the end after I was done saying, thanks everybody for coming. I played a Peter Gabriel, Shock the Monkey. No one caught what I was even doing with it. You know what I mean? Like.
So Doug, what shows we got coming up?
Oh, God. I didn't write that down. Friday, we're at... Where are we Friday?
I'm not with you Friday. I've got something going on
We're at
Friday.
the Ogilvy Park.
Okay.
I'm not sure where because it's a private thing, and they didn't tell us where we were playing it. And Saturday, we're at the Black Sheep.
That's right. Gage
that's
Joseph
right.
Band.
Yeah, it's a trio.
The trio.
Trio.
The
Gage.
drums and keyboards.
Yeah.
Shout out
Then
Gage, Jason,
Christian
and
Beck,
Adam.
I'm not sure where he's at. He's at some orchard thing up in Pittsburgh.
I was blown away by those pictures of, is it Lazy Acres
Lazy
campground?
Acres,
Yeah, that was a nice stage.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun out there. Yeah, we're going back July 21st. We'll be back out there.
Did you guys see that stage at Sally
You'll be
Buffalo
there.
they made? Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
You see that Sally Buffalo stage?
I'm jealous of the sound system.
I didn't see the sound system. I just saw a stage.
Well,
the
that
sta-
was
the-
just brought in. That
Right,
was
but
brought
the
Okay.
stage looked cool and everything else, but the sound system I was jealous of. That's L'acoustic, it's French, l'acoustique as I call it, and some of the best sounding cabinets ever. Like the Roxy Theater in Pittsburgh has that same rig hung indoors,
Oh,
but
man.
to see that thing outdoors, I bet that show was unreal.
in.
with
18
Neil
minor
McCoy.
rays on one
Oh,
side.
it was unbelievable.
18
I would have
on the
loved to
other,
have been there.
And 18 subs sitting up front. That place was banging, let me tell you.
Oh, man, I can imagine.
For as small as it is, that was a huge, huge system.
Nice.
The one time we were at Saddle Ridge. Is that West Virginia or Pennsylvania? But the rest of the band was complaining one day because we were just bringing in way too much equipment for like the small venues we were doing.
Right.
It just bicker and bicker. And finally, Duck looks at me. He's like, "You want to do something funny tonight?" He said, "Let's just bring in every single sub, top, everything we have. Let's bring in." And I'd say 12-foot wall of speakers. This
Plus
gap,
theirs.
yeah, plus theirs. They had this gap to get into the back hallway to the restrooms. And I remember the owner's like, no.
Yeah, I got pictures of that.
Yeah.
Actually, it come up on my thing on my Facebook.
Memories.
Yeah.
Memories. Yeah, I was sitting there thinking about that because they had the stools that was saddles.
Yeah.
I remember
At
that
the bar.
place. I bought that stretch limo off of that guy, little Mexican guy.
A lot of people just think more speakers, equal just more sound exponentially.
You don't have to go as loud.
Yeah.
That's it.
You can turn it down. I mean,
It reduces your chance for feedback
you
and
have
everything
one-
else, really.
you have
Yeah.
one speaker, you have to blast it to get where you want to go. Or if you have a whole bunch of them, you half volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew a guy, and that was his logic was, louder is better, and it's not always the case. And he'd get feedback and everything, and it was just like,
I used to always have to try to explain that to the people on the ships that it's quality over quantity. We want
Yeah.
quality sound, not quantity
Right,
of sound.
right.
It's so hard to teach someone that, really.
Granted, 16 subs might have been a little bit much. We may have it.
It wasn't that big of a bar.
So
I think it's on the West Virginia Pennsylvania border.
yeah, somewhere right
believe.
there.
yeah, it's right, it's close up there.
hmm
I don't think you go a couple miles down the road and you're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
So Doug threw this party. What was it? About a month ago, Doug and Tim threw this party, and they invited almost every entertainer in the Ohio Valley on a Sunday, which was awesome because like we all gig, we can't see each other, and it was cool. But you started telling me about Carnival Cruise.
Yeah, well, we can't leave out Brian Tennell.
Brian Tennell,
Tennell was
Brian Tennell.
hugely
Your
instrumental in
Ryan
us
Sound,
having
shout out to Brian
that
Tennell.
party. But yeah, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off.
But you told me a story, and I'm not going to share any names about the person that you had a story about, but can you go in little detail about what you told me about firing a sound guy? Sound guy that might be listening to this show right now. We don't have to say his name.
I won't say names, but let's just say I had a fair few friends work for me over the years on Carnival Cruise Lines. I had a career that lasted in and out almost 23 years, climbed the ladder, had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, one of the worst things I ever used to have to do, whether they were local or they were from Serbia or Romania or wherever, was when I'd have to go out and actually fire somebody. Some of the firings were easy, some of them weren't. One that sticks in my mind was a kid in his second week of being trained. Then he comes up to the sound booth and he kept into his hand, and then he'd smell. And I had already thought the kid was a bit of a boozer, and I'm like, I realized I'm like, this kid's been drinking.
Yeah.
And, so I call backstage and I'm like, hey, can so and so come backstage and can you see him? Why? Well, I think he's been drinking. So they go back and they set him up for an alcohol test. Because you're not allowed to be on the job drunk, and plus we got to save lives
Right.
and whatever. You got a minimal limit you can drink, and so he's like almost triple DUI level, if you would. You know what I mean? And so they say to him, the kid, they said, "How much have you had to drink?" And he said, "I just had 2." And they said, "2 what?" He said, "I had 2." They said, "Well, wow, you must have a terrible tolerance." They said, "Well, can you explain to us what 2 is?" 2 to this guy was 2 pint glasses of Jack Daniels. With a splash of water on it because it takes the heat off. This kid's had 32 ounces of Jack Daniels and thinks he's going to run a show. I mean, so that's better than the story that I told you earlier. Yeah. But the other story, so I had to fire that kid. But the other story was a guy decided to show up barefoot and his wife beat her with a water bottle full of Jägermeister and proceed to have an argument with the DJ. And I get the phone call of like, "You're not going to believe this, but you got to come get rid of another one." And I'm like, all the stories I can tell you about firings were something else.
So when you fire somebody, what happens to them? Do you put them in the brig? Do you just draw them off?
No, if it's a legitimate, like, decent person, we'll let them finish. They let them finish out what their duties were or whatever. And then they just got rid of them in the next home port, American port. If it was super bad, they'd brig them.
Yeah.
A lot of times, whenever they know they're going to fire them, they do what they call a 6 o'clock knock. You don't even know you're getting fired. So you go on about your day, you do your duties, you do your jobs, and then they pull into home port and 6 o'clock, knock, knock, knock. Security's there waiting for you. You got an hour to shove all your stuff in a bag and you're off.
Wow.
The worst part is if you're an American citizen, they can literally just kick you off in that port. So let's say I'm up here from West Virginia and I get kicked off a ship in Long Beach, California. Guess what? I've been repatriated to my own country. So it's now on me to get myself home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whereas somebody from anywhere else in the world, they have to be repatriated. So the flight's paid for. So an American, like you mess up, you're done. You're stuck. It's awful.
Yeah,
and probably 80% of the sound guys at the time were all Americans. So it was
Yeah.
it was terrible whenever somebody get fired because I'm the bad guy.
How many sound guys is on each ship?
Well, at the time when I was out there was over 24 ships. There was only one main sound guy. He ran the theater, and then you had what they called an LES tech, which was local entertainment system tech. Hence why I call my business LES, which is Logical Entertainment Services, because everybody was like, on all the drawings on ships when they're building the ship, they always write LES, LES. And the Italians, the ships were built in the Italian yards, and they'd always be like, "Hey, who's this LS guy? I want to meet this LS guy." Only a few people knew that it was local entertainment systems. So when I started my business, I was like, eventually, I am doing some consulting for the cruise ships, but I hope to the day when I actually have to go back out, people still know me as what I did, but I want to go to like another company and finally somebody go, "Oh, Les, I've been waiting to meet you my whole life."
Yeah, Matt was looking into doing a carnival little tour with us, like a little acoustic act, and he said, like, under the rule book, he said, like, if you were caught with something you shouldn't have, they will leave you wherever they are, and it's up to you.
Oh, yeah. The worst thing that one of the funniest ones I ever remember was a guy in Cozumel, Mexico, a musician, coming on a gangway. He's a little intoxicated, and he'd gone ahead and scored himself some grass. And he's all hot and sweaty and everything else, and the bag had burst open on him. And security has him lift up his shirt, and there was like just Mexican brickweed just stuck all over him in sweat. And like I'm standing there, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness gracious!"
So you can get busted for cigars and everything else.
Oh yeah, you can bring a Cuban cigar back into the States. Yeah, look out. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why you take the ring off.
Yeah, exactly. Put another band on.
Yeah, exactly.
Reband.
I mean, not that I'm,
Yeah.
promoting, smuggling Cuban cigars in or anything.
Cuban cigars are legal now, right?
No,
Did
if
they
they
lift
are or
that
they are
ban?
not.
I you know what? I don't know. I know there was talk that they were gonna lift it, but I don't.
I know I smoked a couple of them out of Jamboree In The Hills.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Barry Jones.
Yeah. I had my very first Cuban cigar in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's yeah.
Those things are like that big around, and
There's different sizes, it's based on the roll and whatever, but Cohiba's the one everybody's after. But in Mexico, they always say, "Oh, you're buying a you're not buying it." They printed the band down the street and some kid rolled it back in his house,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I mean, as far as like, I mean, I enjoy cigars, but it's if you're paying a high price or just for a name because it's like Arturo Fuente or a Cuban or something, and you hate it, what's the point? You buy what you like. If you like a $2 cigar, smoke a $2 cigar. I mean,
it's about
just,
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So too many people were like, "Oh, you got to have Cuban." Why? Like I've had better cigars that were cheaper than that Cuban,
Really?
but it's
Yeah. You ever have somebody roll a cigar for you? Smoke one fresh, like Tampa,
No.
New Orleans, whatever. You got to experience that. That's really cool.
they do it in New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans got New Orleans Cigar Company. My old mailman was a huge cigar smoker, so we went down for Christmas parade one year, and I brought him back a bunch, and he now orders them all the time from New Orleans. Like
All
he's
right.
like, "Those are my favorite cigars."
We have to do a road show in New Orleans.
Yeah, we go down for the Christmas
Right,
parade.
right,
I go every
yeah.
year. It's a blast.
You mentioned Jamboree In The Hills earlier.
oh,
So
Jesus.
for our viewers that don't know, Doug was one of the men in charge behind the scenes at Jamboree In The Hills.
Well, yeah, on certain things.
Certain things.
How many years?
42.
Wow,
Oh, he
That's
was there
amazing.
for a long haul.
from the beginning.
37 of them was the first ones. I was working on stage at the old site, and we went over to the new site. Then I started working more or less the monitor rigs. Then I went to hauling water, doing just about everything and anything. The speaker towers, my dad's company built the speaker towers.
Oh, nice.
All the walkways that you come in, we built all those. The big gazebo was up in the back. We built that. I kind of got the buildings that they changed from working out of trailers all my life. We finally got in buildings,
Mm-hmm.
and that was awesome
Yeah.
because it was like I was out there when the tornado went through.
Oh man, I
And we
forgot
were in
about
one of them
Yeah.
trailers, and Perry Jones is going, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Lay down, hope for the best."
that. Hold on.
Where are you going to go? You know.
when we land, just click your heels 3 times and say there's
We
no
watched
place
the
like
tornado
home.
go across. It wasn't really a big tornado. It was just
Yeah.
like a wind thing. It went across the top, throwing trash cans, all kinds of stuff. And Perry's like freaking out because we had all the kids there working.
Oh man.
It was like 2 weeks before the show, and Perry's just freaking out. He didn't know what to do. So we just all laid down on the floor in the trailer and hope for the best.
Just in your
Not
mind,
end up in the next county.
in your mind, thinking of all the equipment that's surrounding you right now, all the trail, all I can imagine.
All the trash cans and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
I could sit here and tell you a lot of stories about Jamboree in the Hills.
Was
Lots
that
and lots of them.
was that like by far the worst disaster you experienced out there, as far as like a mishap or maybe a technical error?
Yeah. Just a lot of little stupid things all
Yeah.
the time. The craziest thing was a couple of the acts come off the buses. They weren't allowed to film backstage.
Mm-hmm.
A couple come off the stage trying to record, and the security guards tackle them to get their phones because they weren't allowed to do it.
oh man.
And it was just like, because at the time they had, I can't think of the company, they did all the recording. So you weren't allowed to do
Right.
that.
Oh
They probably had all the rights.
Yeah.
to-
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of stories out there.
So was there a point for Jamboree in the Hills where you could kind of see where it went from just like this local thing to where it was national? Because at one point it started like the running of the Rednecks was on national news. So
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
was there kind of like a turning point, or just it kind of melded into that national known?
I think it just kind of coming into it
Yeah.
as it went along. It just got bigger and bigger. It started out really small because it started at the news site, actually.
Hmm.
Then they just build it. Next thing you know, it was just like crazy. I stood on stage and watched that a few times. I was just like, they run over each other.
Right.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to get that spot no matter what.
I was stationed at down in DC, and it was on the national news, and guys around me were like, look at these nut jobs. And I look up and it says Jamboree in the Hills. I'm like, oh, that was my backyard.
I have a similar type story.
I might know like 3 or 4 of those people that are now down on the ground. So
Exactly. I remember I was on a ship and we were doing a project in service, and they would show the morning news on the big screen out on the Lido pool, on the main pool. And it's like they're watching the running of the rednecks. And somebody goes, hey, isn't that where you're from? And I said, yes.
oh no, man, I beat my chest on that one. Yeah, that's where I'm from.
It's funny, like when anytime you saw somebody find their spot, they didn't just hurry up and set their tarp down. They would do a leaping forward dive
Yeah, like Superman with the tarp.
to get a few extra yards.
Like the tarp was a slip and slide or something, but it wasn't.
And then your friends would come back to the campsite. So we got Blue Bee.
The first year they did it there, that was the mud day. I mean,
Yeah, I
it was
saw pictures of
nothing
that.
but mud.
Oh man, I
They
remember
made
that.
slides. They were doing all kinds of stuff. It was just, then the water built up in front of the stage, and it was at least 6 foot deep.
Oh,
And I can't remember one of the head guys jumped down in it and dove in to clean out the thing down in there to
The
get
drain?
the water to drain.
Wow.
Oh,
And
man.
it was just like, oh my God. People were throwing mud. I mean, it was crazy. That was probably the worst disaster I've ever seen, was all that mud.
I remember, like maybe the year before, after I played, I think you were in charge of water and grounds those years, and you were telling me how the first site, the irrigation system was almost reversed. Everything was coming to the front of the stage and just filling up.
Yeah. Down behind the stage where the water went out, plugged up. And it kept plugging up and taking it back up into the things that we had to get down there. And it had the cattails that we weren't allowed to touch. So to clean it out was like illegal to do, but we had to because the water wasn't going anywhere.
Oh,
Wow.
So I'm down there digging. Here comes Tom Beck. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I got to clear this out to get the water out of there." He said, "That's cattails. You can't touch them." I was, ain't nobody watching.
Speaking of going against environmental laws, there was also a story that we had where we had to escape EPA pretty damn fast. So when we're in the tour bus at a mall plaza, I'm not going to mention what mall plaza it was, but Doug goes, "What do you think this beeping light is on the front dashboard of this tour bus?" And
Oh, no.
we're like, "We have no idea. Is it the air ride?" And he's like, "Should I press it?" And then somebody said, "Yeah." He presses it. A wave of septic,
You let out the black water tank.
I didn't know it was.
a wave on all sides, just rushing like somebody opened up the floodgates, and we're
So
like,
I just put the bus in gear and go.
So you unleashed the black water tank in the parking lot of the mall.
nice.
Oh my goodness!
Didn't know what it
gracious.
was at the time. I just got the bus.
You found out what it was real fast.
Jared's like, what are we going to do? He's like, this.
We're out of here.
So I'm assuming that the light was because it was full and needed drained. So
Yeah.
you just, oh wow, Tug, I love it.
Tire tracks
Well,
must have
luckily
like
it
faded
was
a
all
lot.
water. Because you don't do a number 2 on a bus. So
Right.
It was all water.
There is that occasional goof that does.
Yeah. Me.
What's your bus? You owned it. So, I mean,
And speaking of bus, remember we got stuck out at, what was that camp?
Atwood Lake.
Atwood Lake.
That was our first full band show. Yeah, we parked the bus on grass the day after it rained out there. Did a 3-hour gig.
Behind the stage on the flat.
sunk.
Sunk. And it took maybe 4.5 hours to get a record tow truck to get out there and pull us out
Wow.
at Atwood Lake. So it would only have been like, what, less than an hour to get out there, but we had to wait so long to get pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Mike with us, the news guy.
Yeah.
He wrote that. He had a field day with that.
Oh, yeah.
Which Mike was it?
He was Channel 9 News.
Mike Anthony or?
Oh,
No, he was 7.
I know his first name's Mike. I just can't think of his last name. He did a
Blanking on
whole
me.
page, almost 2 pages of it.
Oh boy.
mhm.
Nice, all of us.
Right along with the Matt Van Fossen band.
Jeez.
Michael Palmer.
Michael Palmer,
Shout
yeah.
out to Michael Palmer.
Yeah, he was one of the cameramen.
Oh, okay, cool.
Channel 9
Mhm.
News. Really nice guy.
I think he went on to Times Leader, maybe.
Yeah, he retired.
Okay, yeah.
Retired now.
Today's podcast is brought to you by our local sponsor at Vargo's Cargo Moving Services. If you're going to be moving into a new home soon, if you're going to be moving to the big city, or if you're tired of the big city, you're coming home, give Vargo a shout out. Vargo has been helping countless Ohio Valleyans with their moving jobs and while saving them thousands in costs. It also doesn't hurt that he's a former NCAA football lineman. So if you're planning a move and need some extra help, give Vargo a shout out, and also catch him this Thursday on 10 String Tavern as we release our first NCAA football sports episode. Again, that is Vargo's Cargo Moving Services. And now back to the podcast. All right, so we're back with a viewer-submitted question, one that pertains to sound engineers. If there was one band with their original lineup you could ever run sound for, which one would that be?
And 3 Doors Down.
Three Doors Down.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
He was boom. He had it.
Like I gave him the question earlier.
Yeah.
I'd do Tower Power.
Tower
And I
Power.
would do the original lineup. I mean, there was just so much. I mean, you talk about the East Bay Grease and all that. That's the beginning to me of like some of the coolest funk that ever come out. And you never expected to have been what it was. So you listen to Rocco on bass and Dave Garibaldi
Yeah.
on drums. I mean,
Yeah.
and Emilio's vocals in the early age. I mean, it was just Tower Power was something else. You know,
Yeah.
just
What's
unreal.
What's funny now is when you see bands like Tower Power in Chicago and they have that horn section. It's just now as a musician, my first thought when I see them, I'm like, man, what did they charge for a gig? You got like 9 people in this band,
Right? You know, I mean, I think a lot of people would expect me to say the Dead because I'm a huge Deadhead. But I mean, horns. I mean, come on, you get to mix the horns.
Did you go on Monday?
No, I did not.
I didn't either.
You know what? I'll tell you why I didn't go. I just felt that it was going to be weird. I just had that ominous feeling that it was, with it being the last show, I felt that it was just going to be too many people in the parking lot, too hard to get in and out. And it turns out it was, everybody's telling me hit and miss. So I regret it, but I don't.
Yeah, same. It's funny because I seen on Facebook some friends of mine that went, and I know they ain't ever listened to anything of the Dead. They just went because it was, and they're all dressed
party.
up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was like a hippie thing.
Exactly. Well, when you look when Dead and Company started, I mean, one of my favorite things that I saw on social media way back when was not when Dead and Company started, but when John Mayer started playing with Dead and Company. There was somewhere, Midwest or, 8 school teachers get together and they all go and they're like, this was terrible. We thought we were coming to see a John Mayer concert. And apparently it's with some other band called The Dead. And like, what I mean? Like, it's just,
just go. Just leave.
right.
Just go.
So did you ever see The Dead?
One time in, when was that? 93. Yeah, I think it was 93 or 94 I saw him.
Right on.
And it was, I loved it. And what's funny is, like, the first Grateful Dead song I ever heard when I was in high school was Shakedown Street.
That's a killer song. That's what I get hooked
That's
on.
a great
right?
album. That's what I got. And then I went out and I bought it on cassette, and I wore that cassette out. And then I've been a fan ever since. But
I found Skeletons from the Closet in Mom and Dad's record collection, and I think I had borrowed it from somebody, and they weren't even Deadheads, and I was hooked instantly on Uncle John's band, and after that, it was just, I was ahead at like 10 years old.
right. So I wanted to go, but it was it didn't help anyone. When I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, I really want to go to this Dead show. Do you want to go? She was like, no, but I will. I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that.
Right.
But the next time Kelsey Ballerini comes in, hey, let's get tickets. I'll go.
Our wives hate us when they bring us to shows because like we'll sit down for like what was the last one?
Priscilla Block at Jurgles.
Yeah, Jurgles. So like, we'll sit there and from like just knowing like engineering, we'll be like, this is pre-recorded.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, this light show's pre-recorded. They're singing the tracks, and we'll just tell them, and they're like, shut up.
Stop ruining it.
Don't ruin this one for me too.
It's funny you say that, whatever. We were at Blame My Roots last year, and Tino kept telling me the same thing when Nico Moon was playing, and I was like, he's like, just shut up and let me enjoy the concert. I'm like, okay, I will.
Yeah, it's we pick it apart.
But see, my wife's actually pretty cool about it. Like you're saying, she would drag you to this show and that show. My wife wants to go to all the shows that I go to. You know what I mean? So like, I don't have to like be like, oh, we got to go to Kelsey Ballerini. We're gonna go. No, I'm like, hey, do you want to go to whatever? Or sometimes she'll be like, did you catch, so and so's playing in Morgantown? No, I did not. But we're going, right? Yeah, we're going.
Yeah, for the most part. But like I said, she just was. Like we got tickets to see Matchbox 20 and stuff this summer, but. The Dead, she just, she was like, I will go with you. I won't say no, but
right.
I know that I'll never get her to like a 5-finger death punch.
You wouldn't even get me to go to that. So.
or like a Metallica show. Like I know the metal stuff there. No, she'll be like, you and Jake go and you have a good time. And
yeah, I'd be there with you.
Yeah, there you go. So
nice.
See, I'm not a Dead fan. I'm more of a Pink Floyd.
Oh, Pink Floyd is my
Pink Floyd
absolutely all-time favorite band. I mean,
I just never was into the Dead for some reason. I don't know why.
It's an acquired taste. It's like Jerry Garcia said, some people like black licorice, and those that like black licorice really like black licorice. We're an acquired taste.
I'm a huge Floyd fan. I was excited. I finally got a 1973 original vinyl of Dark Side of the Moon. Finally, without spending like $300 on it, I finally got it. It's in beautiful condition. Put that on, put the headphones on so you can really hear the record going. Oh, man.
I got to see him at Three River Stadium.
Yeah.
And they went to the High State Stadium. I got to see him there, too.
I saw him at Three Rivers. They had the big pig balloons. Yep.
That Fred come out on the bed and floated around.
Yep.
Shot out of the Three River Stadium.
Yep. Yeah, that was
I think I remember it. I'm not really sure.
but
I was there.
But with Floyd, and the Dead and Zeppelin and all the bands of the time, we're talking about sound engineers. And my God, if it wasn't for what those guys were doing, they were pioneers back in the 70s in the studios and everything else. You talk about the Pink Floyd, Us and Them. Do you guys know how that was done, Us and Them? There was no delay machine back then, so they literally recorded Us and Them, and then brought in like 9 tape machines and put a microphone on each one. So that's how they got the us. Like
no kidding.
Bonzo's Montreux, Zeppelin, because I see the Zeppelin behind you.
Yeah.
They literally put him at the end of a hallway in a school and set all the mics at the back to get that reverb on everything else. So there was mics on all the drums, so these guys, we have it so easy now on a digital mixer or your little mixer there.
Right.
Boom, it's there for us. That stuff didn't exist.
It's a lost art.
It is a lost art. I'm you said you're an analog guy too. I'll tell you a cool analog story from my years of working at Carnival. All of our consoles used to be Midas XL4s. I mean, people will fight over, was it the H3000, the Heritage 3000, or the XL4? I got certified and trained on how to fix Midas XL4s. Whenever we actually ripped them out and swapped to PM5Ds, I repaired every one of them, certified them, and then they got sold to Claire Global, which is the largest production company in the world, which I thought was pretty cool. And Bob Dylan ended up with a couple of them, which was pretty cool because he was using a console. But the guy that trained us tells me a story, and he was from Minnesota, so I think we know who one of the most famous people from Minnesota was, and he was so he's a console technician. He gets his phone call for an up-and-coming artist, and a cat had walked across the console because somebody was up late at night with their tea and honey, and the cat knocked the tea and the honey into the console. He gets this urgent call to go to this place, fixes the console. The cat's name was Paisley. I think we know the artist I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think we know.
Prince, yeah.
That's it.
So
yeah.
I got trained on how to fix consoles by the guy that saved one of the best recordings for Prince ever. Like, to me, that's huge.
That's
It's
cool.
huge.
That's
It's cool.
so cool.
Like going back to like the technology now, it's just like on this program I do for the video editing, they have an AI that'll listen for any white noise and just take it out. Now I was explaining to my wife, I would need to fill this up with like soundproof foam if I wanted that same effect, and it just you have an AI listening for it. It's nuts.
Does that AI get rid of mouth breathing? You know, every once in a while.
Coughing, sneezing. I won't say the other.
So, Doug, you're an analog guy. We know that you're a huge analog guy.
I like pushing buttons instead of having to flip around in computers. I just don't like computers. I'm sorry.
And Doug is a, like, I'm looking at your console. Doug is a fader guy, not a potentiometer guy too, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
Like you give Doug a console with a potentiometer or pot, and he's like, no.
Nope. I'm old school.
What will it
Always
take
will
for
be.
you to get to the iPad? What will it take
I mean,
for
I
you?
got 2 of them. I just never
You never use
them.
it.
They're still in the box.
That's what I want for our gigs. I want to get the next board to be able that I can use
Yeah.
use an iPad on it.
Yeah.
And then
I had a XR32 or whatever.
Yeah, he had an
I had
XR32
one,
out in the
but-
garage that he got rid of recently that he didn't like it.
Wow.
There's too much. You have to go here and there. Remember where this is at, where that's at. Analog, you're done.
Yes.
You know, with the layers and such, with patch bay, you know, you're used to taking a cable and going from point A to point B, and there you've got to find the layer, and then you've got, you know, so
Yeah.
and being from the old school, I remember when we first started putting the PM5Ds on the ships, I thought I was going to quit. And then I eventually got trained and certified on them, and I was like, okay, it's not that bad. But there was a time when I was scared of digital. I really was.
Yeah.
See, I was really surprised Bill Graham went over to it.
Yeah,
He was
that's an
old
interesting
analog
one.
guy
Yeah,
too. I mean,
Right.
he has a whole trailer full of old analog boards. They're just sitting in their boat anchors now. But
Oh man.
yeah, Bill had tons of the big Yamaha. I can't remember the names of all of them. He's got tons of them. He went over to digital, and he was just like so much easier to him. But I'm like, nope, I'll stay where I'm at.
I got a I forget which one it is, but it's a big Yamaha board that's in the garage. But I got it from a friend of my dad's when he passed away, and I just need to. I want to use it, but I need to take it probably like to CA house or
Right.
something
Get it
and
cleaned
just
up, certified.
get it cleaned up because as soon as you turn the volume up, it starts cracking and it just
Well,
needs clean. But
Well, it probably just needs clean, and the potentiometers probably just need exercise. I've got my
Yeah.
Verona 480 sitting in the basement, and it's the same thing.
most of the
I
time
could
just
do the
exercise
work
it.
on it. I just don't see me ever using the console again.
but we haven't found a use for what is it, a 22
Right.
channel board.
Maybe eventually we'll have that.
I hope so. But
So do you still have the 2x4s or whatever that was
Oh yeah.
called?
Yeah.
We're playing Barton Trap at the end of the month.
yeah, it took off a lot faster than I ever imagined. It was because I remember the first time we did it, I was shitting Twinkies. I'm like, how are we going to do this, man? Like, I mean, for him it's easy because you just tell him, hey, play Beethoven's Ninth, and he'll be like, and
More keys in it. That's all I need.
he'll whip it out. But like for me, I mean, I can play bass, but I'm not a Jake on bass. So it's I was just like, man, But then I started thinking about it, like especially when I used to DJ karaoke. Karaoke's about the same 150 songs no matter where you go. It's the same thing.
You are correct.
It's
You are
always the
correct.
same songs all over. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And then when we have our iPads, pull up the sheet music, and probably 97% of the time, it's songs I've heard. There's been a couple where I'm like, I look at him, I'm like, I've never heard this song
Yeah.
before. I don't know how it goes. Just
We
Fake it till we make it.
that's it. I mean,
we played one Waterfront Wednesday, but they ended up moving us into the Civic Center. But I think it was Blakemore and Geary. We were explaining like the concept to them, and they were still kind of confused on it.
Right.
But we started having people come up sing with us. And do you remember that one lady that she come up and sing "Lost in the '50s" tonight? I think that's what she was singing. She just got on the mic and just started wailing. I look at him, and I go like this, and then I look at Blake Morgier, and they're just like, yeah, we understand now.
Yeah, because like I said, what we do is like we still have the karaoke system, so it pulls the song up, and it's still the words and the timing and everything.
Right.
Karaoke track through the monitor.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes people just either they're I don't want to say bad, but they're not very good
on key.
or have an ear for the timing and stuff. And they just go they go rogue, and you're just trying to follow. But yeah, there's been a couple times where
I look at him like I know I'm playing what the charts say. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with a format like that. Before I moved into project management on the ships, I was heavily in sound. I was repairing sound, and I was fixing everything. And they had a program called Superstar Live that they signed in with, and the band played karaoke, same type like what you guys are saying, except they had the click track, they had the charts on the iPad and everything else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you say it's the same 150 songs. And you're right. You're dead right with it, because I remember going into our computers after about the 7th install, because I'd have to be there for the whole week after we installed everything, whatever. I heard it before he cheats so many times that I completely erased before he cheats from our catalog. And now you finally know what I did, folks, back in the home office. I went into the cloud, everything else, erased it from every hard drive, because every night for 7 nights I had to hear that song at least 3 nights or 3 times a night. It was awful.
And the good thing is that we've developed a following, which is also good, because now we have like 5-6 people that follow us wherever we go, and they always sing the same song. So it that helps too. But there's a lot of people that have come up and been like, well, this is pretty cool. Like, we didn't know what to expect, and it's just
it's a great concept. I mean,
especially like I said,
the pioneers of here around here doing it, really.
People get up there with the microphone. They got a guitar player and a drummer and a bass player. The lights are on, and they're singing, so they get that.
Right.
Like, all right, I'm leading the band.
We'll have our rotation of like 5 or 6 people, and then once everybody gets some liquid courage, it just takes that one person to get up there and start wailing. And
it sounds like Brian over at Generations.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He gets people up there. It's sometimes like, woo. I'm like, who told you you
Fireball? Well, tell Fireball no.
We haven't. There was only one show that we did that wasn't fun, but the thing was we were so cramped.
Yeah,
it was in such a tight spot that like
out by me.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
That we were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, and people would try to, even in that cramped spot, like people would get up and dance. I mean, there was one time I looked over and this lady literally has her ass crack in Razor's face.
I grinded on me. Like the corner of my eye, I could see my wife, and I'm like, I know she doesn't like this at all.
And it was probably the woman that you don't want to see grinding anyway.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know how that goes.
And God loved my parents, because everybody would go outside and come back in, go outside, come back in. And finally, at the end of the night, my mom says, man, I don't know what happened. Somebody must have ran over like 1 or 2 skunks in the parking lot, because it stinks out there. That's not a dead skunk, Ma. That's
people that like the Grateful Dead.
That's people going out there to get steam courage to sing.
Dr. Dre. The Chronic albums behind you.
Yeah, we were out at Piedmont for Memorial Day weekend, and I remember we were sitting around the campfire. She said, "Oh, there's a skunk again." I'm like, "No, there isn't."
Oh, that's funny. That is funny.
God love them.
So I wanted to ask you guys about your plans for music in the Valley, but I know that there's some stuff you guys don't want to give away just yet. Is there any like little
Mine's
teaser?
Basically Gage Joseph and Christian Beck.
I can edit that out if we want. But do you want to talk about doing?
I'm working with Gage and Doug on some things, but I'm working with a lot of people in the Valley on some really cool stuff. There's a venue that's coming up that I've got my hands in, and I'm helping. And if it works out, it's going to be one of the more premier venues in the Valley. But I work with everybody. There's a lot of cool stuff coming to this Valley. Mm-hmm. People are starting to invest, and I see the vision in 5 years. I know it's hard to see the vision, especially when you drive through downtown Wheeling, because it looks like downtown Beirut, like it just got blown out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I see the vision, and I think over the course of the next 5 years, for those of us that are in this industry, And I know we've gone through our frustrations. COVID screwed everything up, this, that, and the other. But I see the vision of a lot of people, and I think it's going to be really cool when it actually gets there. And as long as everybody learns, like I've kind of told Doug and some others, as long as we all work with each other and try not to step on each other's toes and respect each other, I can see this valley becoming one of the next meccas, one of the next hot spots for live local talent.
Yeah.
But it's not an ego trip. There are some people in this valley that got an ego out, and it's going to come back and get them.
Right.
I think
it's way too small of a valley.
It's simply, it doesn't matter what you believe in, what your music is. There's a difference between being cool and uncool, and as long as you're cool, I think I think we're all going to work out. Mm-hmm. But there is 2 places coming up this year. One we can talk about. I'm not involved in it at all. But the new ownership at the Riverside is going to really change things too. There,
really?
I mean, you're talking about your console that might need worked out. Derek Frizzy bought Riverside down in Powhatan.
Okay.
I see him. He's an electronics guy. He's a techie guy like us. I would bet that Derek's going to do some cool stuff down there. I mean, this gig with Gage's band was supposed to be somewhere else, and Derek instantly bid on it and took it. So that tells me that you've already got somebody that wants to do something as opposed to we'll just So I think there's going to be a lot more coming. We all just got to.
That was kind of like the idea for starting this. Is just let's make a community out of it. Promote everybody.
Right.
Doug Richardson really did a good thing when he done that new. Anybody can come on and put where they're playing. Where Ohio Valley took it to just bands.
Yeah.
You have to be in a band to put on theirs. Doug Richardson put it on where you can put anything you want to on there.
Nice.
Shout out from Doug Richardson from Zane Run.
Yeah.
And I post on all those sites. I'm friends with all the guys that actually run those sites, and I can understand the visions of each other's journey. I mean,
Doug said the same thing. Not me, the other Doug said the same thing. Everybody needs to work together, so let's try to bring us all together.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that big party at Doug's. I think that was the beginning of a cool thing
really
with a lot of us and expanding more into. I mean,
it was great for me that I went because of the fact that I'm fairly new to this area. I grew up Wintersville, Steubenville, a little bit northern in the county, and I hear Razor all the time saying this guy, but I was able to actually now meet you guys and other people there, and now I got a face to a name, and it was great. I was
me and
so
Razor's
happy.
been together 15?
10 between 10 and 15 years, I think.
That's awesome.
and Doug and I met through COVID. Tell them, Doug, they didn't think we'd get along. The whole valley thought Doug and I were going to beat each other's
Everybody
throats.
said, you're going to hate him. I'm like, why am I going to hate him? I don't hate anybody. Well, I do, but
And we both heard the same things back and forth. We were going to hate each other. We were going to this, that, and the other. And now, I think we text 10 times a day like teenagers, and probably talk at least 10 minutes a day on the phone with each other. So
That's cool.
That's cool. Music does that for us. This valley can do that.
And that's it. That's just it. Music does it. That's
and I've somewhere along the line worked with just about everybody you can name.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, a few bands that I haven't, but you imagine Jamboree In The Hills, there was 30 bands every year for 40 some years. I mean, I've met all of them. I can remember Neil McCoy coming off the bus yelling, "Where's the beef?" As soon as he got off his bus, that was the first thing he said every year. "Where's the beef?" And his security guard was Lurch. So it was beef and Lurch. We had to follow him around everywhere. When he went up on the speaker towers, we had to stand at the bottom, make sure nobody come around. And I looked at him one day, I said, "So if you fall, am I supposed to catch you?" I said, "You have no safety ropes, you have no nothing."
Oh man. Yeah, I remember seeing that on television. He'd just go nuts at the end of the year.
I bet he does that everywhere because our good friend Bill, shout out to Bill Baker, they went up to the Sally Buffalo thing. Yeah. And you've seen the video of him walking around on the stage with a bottle of Fireball handing out to each other, to all the band, and they all take it out. It was Bill's bottle. He just grabbed it out of the crowd. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. He just grabs the bottle out of the crowd.
Then the one guy's complaining, he's going to drink all of it. We ain't going to have any left.
That's like when we played Blame My Roots that one year. Next thing I know, I come off the stage and did a beer bong of some kind of fluid. I don't know what it was.
But I don't, yeah.
I'm like, all right, I think I made it in the valley.
Matt was drinking that year.
Yeah.
We were pretty toasted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, let's do it, man. You only do this once, so
It was
I
like
had a blast.
It felt like I was beer bonging like a mix of Jack Daniels and Country Time Lemonade.
Yeah.
Matt's kind of where I got my start in managing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, he come to my house one day and asked me if I would manage him. At the time, it wasn't
Yeah.
really a band. He wanted me to manage him into a band and stuff. I told him, I said, I don't know nothing about it. He said, I don't either. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay.
That's
Away we went.
and then look how everything took off. That's
Fisher Price, my first gig.
Then he eventually moved on to the Brighton Boys and
Yeah.
a little bit of everything.
yeah. That's it's like I said. You probably could sit here for 3 hours and tell us Jamboree stories. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm really enjoying Gage Joseph.
yeah,
He was 15 when I met him, and he's now 19, and that kid's got it. I mean, he's really got it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other artists in the Valley that's
Right,
got
yeah.
it too. I'm just happen to be with Gage, that's all. And I listen to all these other acts. I'm not like, I don't want to say anybody's bad because there's not anybody's that bad. Two greatest shows I go to is Gage and Christian Beck.
Yeah.
And two are, Christian Beck has a really high energy band.
yeah.
They're all over the stage and really good.
That's
Really good
fun.
band.
That's what I like to do. I'd like
He's
to
out
be-
of Pittsburgh, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was on the Township Road, and he went over. JD had moved away, so Township Road broke up, and he started his own band.
nice.
What I like about working with Gage, is that he's not just, it's not always the same set list.
Yeah.
He's always trying something new, whether it works or it doesn't work. And, he's not just stuck in this is all I can do. This is only genre I can stick in.
When
I got
first met him,
to,
he
I got
only
to
said
be.
3 words on stage the whole time. Now he talks to everybody.
Yeah.
He finally broke that, I'm scared to say anything type thing.
Now he's a
Now he's
Joker and
Yeah.
he's a
Well, I mean,
social butterfly,
that's the thing. I mean, you can sing and play, but if you're not entertaining, so you got there's that third factor in there that you have to have
Right.
to really
Yeah, he
stand
went and
out.
called me Dr. Phil the other night. The haircut of Dr. Phil.
And what did he call Tony? He called Tony something else because Tony texted me and he's like, "You're not gonna believe what he just did to us." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, that kid."
Because every time he plays the one song, I shut him off.
Oh wow.
And I played
Wagon wheel.
I played a joke on him over at the Generations one night. I called the whole band and said, "You guys, when he goes to play that, will you set your guitars down, walk off stage?" So he goes up to the mic and he says, "Our next song is going to be," and they all just put their guitars down and start walking. He said, "Well, I guess we're going on break." And he said, because he always told me I couldn't shut him off where the band was playing. I said, I'll get you
Yeah.
back. Believe me, I love practical jokes.
So 2 days later, we're together, and it's I think it's New Year's or whatever. We're down at the Tiger Pub, and he tells me the story. And he's like, "This is what I did to him, this, that, and the other." So it's just him and Wyatt. They're getting ready to do it, and I did the same exact thing. And he looked at me like, "How did you know?" Like, I just killed the whole sound and everything else, and I set the iPad down and I walked away.
Because every time he plays it now, he's looking over to me to see if I'm going to hit the button.
Yeah, so Tim, we met going back to like playing with Gage because like playing with Gage is nice because when I can look at him and he can tell me a key.
Right.
He understands music that way.
I know how we met.
Yeah, we met at a Crazy Horse gig in
Yes,
Brownsville.
we
Shout out
met at
Crazy Horse.
we met at the Chevron building at the fairgrounds
Right.
in Marshall County, and nothing against that building, but that's the worst building in the valley
I
to play.
know.
I mean, if they just do something for sound deadening, but
Yeah.
go ahead. That's how we met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Crazy Horse. Shout out to John Daner, Mike McMillan, JB Mead,
Bobby Mead.
Bobby Mead. I think his cousin
Chris
Chris, he was
Mead,
playing with
yeah.
us that night. But it was so funny because I was informed about the gig like 2 weeks prior. I was sent a set list. Then about a week later, after I got all the songs down, somebody said, "You know what? We're not going to actually use that one. Here's another one." So completely different songs. So by the time I get on stage, they're like, "Oh, we're just going to scrap this set list. Just follow us." And I was like, where is the first song we're going to do? And they're like, "Oh, so-and-so." I didn't know the song. And they're like, "Oh, it's just a little ditty in E. You'll be fine."
A
And
little ditty.
That was how the rest of the
Gonna do a
concert
little
went.
ditty.
But what's funny is my wife's from Columbus. She's never seen a steak fry before.
what I
Never
was
saw
gonna
that
say.
concept. And she's looking at me like, "So you're telling me people have to bring their own seasonings and utensils for this?"
And there's a beer truck over there. They can just drink as much as they want. Like,
Yeah, she went over to get us some beer.
thinking she had to pay, right?
Yeah, well, she missed the beer truck. She was in line for the dice game, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Getting us drinks." I'm like, "Well, you're about to gamble our money away right now." What are you about to do?
Yeah, that was the John Marshall football mom's steak
Yeah.
fry. Yeah, that was actually a good gig.
It was
a
a real
lot of
fun
fun.
gig, yeah.
That was packed. I think they had 400 people in there. That place was
Yeah.
packed. I tell you, anytime I do a steak fry down there, it's always packed.
Yeah. It was
it's-
fun.
But it's always, we were talking about the issue of amount of speakers and volume.
Yeah.
Some people, when you're working in a venue like that, will allow you to bring in delay speakers, and you can have speakers all down the room. And some say, "Oh, it can only be in the front." And when it's only in the front in a big building like that, it never goes well because there's always that guy that turns the speaker off. There's always that woman that yells at you. There's always the person that says it's too loud.
Yeah.
The guy
That
that turns
gig-
your speaker.
The guy, last Friday, guy kept turning our speaker around until Nick Ebert, shout out Nick Ebert, the Marshall County Commissioner, had to go down and let the guy know he was Nick. And Nick just gets down to the guy. He's like, "Really, dude? You've been asked 9 times not to touch a speaker again. Are we going to have a problem?" And finally, the guy looked at Nick, and Nick's just a hulking dude.
Yeah.
Nick. And the guy just went ahead and paid his tab and left. And I was like, "Oh, thank God, Nick."
Nick was in the cowboy hat that sang with us down Martin's Ferry.
Oh, okay.
He was with Wyatt. Shout out Wyatt,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, he's part of the Ebert Brothers family that runs the Ebert Brothers show down there in Martinsville. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, every concert with Gage, they would bring him up on stage and be like, "Here's the Marshall County Commissioner." I thought for somehow like he just like tricked the system or had a bunch of friends that voted for him here. That's just a running joke.
It is. I think it's a self-appointed title he gave himself too. Really.
Nice.
He's a character. He's got a heart of gold though, because I was doing a gig at the fairgrounds and ran into a situation, and I called him early in the morning. I said, "Hey, dude, I need a hand. The person was supposed to help me couldn't." And he was there in my house in 5 minutes. I was
Really?
like, "Dude, so." But yeah, steak fries. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got asked to play one, and then they found somebody else to.
Yeah, right. Last
Yeah, because they wanted us to DJ and play for 6 hours.
For $150.
Yeah,
something like that.
pretty much.
Exposure. You'll get
Yeah.
exposure.
Yeah, we'll get you exposure. I've been exposed enough. It's,
I went to jail for that.
funny you should say that. It's only I found out that it's only indecent exposure if there's a female close.
Oh.
So when you get arrested while you and the female are both peeing in the alley, you're gonna get indecent exposure.
Oh, sheesh. Wow.
Yeah. So that was my first time. Well, my only time getting arrested, but yeah, I was in college, and I'm just thinking I'm gonna get kicked out. I'm not playing sports. I'm not. My dad's gonna shoot me in the face with a bazooka after this. And we got into the drunk tank, and I get there, and there's like half the basketball team or the football team.
Yeah.
They're like, "Did you give the cops any trouble?" I'm like, "No." I'm like trying not to shit my pants right here. They're like, "You'll be fine." Next thing in the morning, they let everybody go except for a couple troublemakers. And as you're walking out, they're like, "Don't do that again." I'm like, "Nope, I'm good."
Where'd you go to school?
That happened at OU. I went to OU for my first 2 years, and then moved on to another great college. So
What was your high school? Toronto?
Wintersville.
Wintersville.
Yes, the old Wintersville that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, they merged to Steubenville. So.
No, they merged with Mingo.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
It was Wintersville, Mingo, and it became Indian Creek. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, that was 2 years after I graduated. Then I think '93 was the last graduating class from Wintersville, and then I went to Indian Creek, and that's what it's been ever since. So
I'm the oldest one in here.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
River High School.
That's what I thought.
I went,
You're
yeah,
Pilot,
the
aren't you?
great almighty River High School.
Nothing to be ashamed there. They got a
Manhattan
good
grade
football
school.
program down there.
Yeah, it's not really. I mean, I went to high school, I think.
Yeah, you told me like stories of driving to high school, like partying the whole way.
Partying all the way down, all the way home, every football game.
yeah,
Half the time I had the football team with me partying before they went to the game. Coach Snively used to like scream and yell at us. "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're all right."
yeah. You could do that during football season because you go out after the games, but our track coach that we had he was brutal. Like, you didn't screw around on the weekend because you knew Monday you were gonna run, like the biggest day that you were gonna run, and you could always tell who went out and partied on the weekend because come Monday somebody was thrown up next to the track. It never failed. I learned real quick that don't
Started sweating before the even start.
So I graduated in 82. You were
97.
97.
91.
So I am the oldest.
09.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we got to have a party this September 1st.
Yeah, we already got the date set. We're just
Be
not
my,
putting it out on the air. We don't want people to show up at your house. We know when Doug's big birthday bash is happening, but
Yes, it'll
that's
be
by
my-
invite only to you, those of you out there in YouTube land. Don't just show up.
Be my black day to 60.
60.
60.
Yep.
It was funny that the party you had, we were going around like meeting with everybody, and every once in a while you hear, "Damn, that's good cream cheese." Stuff you smoked.
Oh my God! How much food do you think was at that party? That was unbelievable.
Right.
How much
Food.
food was at that
I
party?
mean, if there wasn't enough already when you walked in with the mashed potato or the baked potatoes, the
baked potato bar.
Yep.
And there's
Nah, I'm
only
with
like
you.
a couple of them left.
Yeah, I took home 8 baked potatoes. I cooked, I don't know, 2 oven racks of baked potatoes I cooked at my house. I soaked them night before, cooked them for a half hour, and then turned off the oven, then finished baking them in the morning.
Yeah.
2 racks in a standard gas oven, and I took home 8 baked potatoes after that party. That was
Yeah, it was.
some potato-eating people. I mean, I didn't know there was that many Irish at that party.
The one guy come in and he was just like, "What's this?" And I happened to be standing there. I'm like, "Oh, it's smoked cream cheese."
Oh, that stuff was unreal.
He took a cracker and it had to have probably, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of cream cheese on it. Just wolfed it down. I'm like, "Whoa, that's a little bit much, man."
Right? Yeah.
But she ordered it good.
How did that night end up? I think we left when I think Doug was performing or Joe Carr. Shout out Joe
think so.
Carr.
We went to what, about 10 o'clock, I think?
I don't know.
I think
Ga-
Joe just
Around 10.
finished.
Just finished. Yeah.
Gage finished up. Gage was finishing up. Louis ended up getting on drums for a little bit, and then Brian kind of just DJ'd for a little bit and was like, "I'm done." And Doug's like, "Well, we gotta still have some music." So I went over and put on my iPhone, and we closed it out with just a
You're walking in, seeing Brian in the matching suit, all color coordinated. Then he had a costume change.
Yeah.
Like halfway through, and came out.
when he was in his red, when he was in his all red thing. That's because his clothes they were bringing him his clothes. Yeah, that was fun, and it worked out well for me. But like we couldn't watch the hockey game that night. That was all the wife was worried about, was watching the Florida Panthers play, and I'm trying to watch bits and pieces of it on my phone. And I told her, I said, "Don't worry." I said, "They're not going to go any further now. Look, the Panthers are playing for the
Don't worry, they're not going to go any further.
well, right, but I don't know if they're going to go any further in this cup run now, though. I mean, you sit 11 days.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about sports. You sit 11 days. Look, they're not looking good now because they got rusty.
Yeah.
And the same when you look at the Heat in the Denver series. The Heat have been playing Denver set. They're
yeah.
looking rusty too. So it just goes to say, you know, you're on that streak. Stay on that streak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but I mean, shout out to Vegas, man. I hope.
I call this the Gerard Gallant Cup. These are the houses that Gerard Gallant built. If you remember, Gallant got kicked out of the locker room after a terrible loss to Carolina Hurricanes when he was coaching Florida. And they left him on the curb, left him with his bags, no limo, no nothing. Just like, get out, you're gone, you're done. I actually have that locker nameplate from that night. I bought it in the Panthers store.
No kidding.
And then all of a sudden, the Vegas team, the expansion teams announced, and look where he went. He went to Vegas, became the coach. And you look at both teams, you know, Marcia Show's doing fantastic for the Golden Knights right now. Where'd he come from? Florida.
Yep.
You know, all the guys that he took that were Floridians that are on Vegas are still there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other guys that are still in Florida are his guys still there. So I call this the Double G Cup. This is the houses that Gallant built, and probably the last time we see the iterations of these two teams. So it's fun to watch.
Oh, it's like the John Gruden when it was Tampa Bay and who did he coach also? Because he'd left one and went to the other one, and they ended up in the Super Bowl together. And
Raiders.
No, it wasn't the Raiders. It was.
Now my wife would be able to answer that. I'm not a big.
I
giant
can't remember,
football
but it basically because he coached one team,
Same type thing,
went
yeah.
to the other team, and then they ended up playing each other in the Super Bowl. But it was both. Yeah, it
Right.
was, God, that's gonna drive me nuts.
I remember when they had the COVID restrictions on masks. Gruden came out with the tiniest piece of cloth, like right over like
cotton ball.
Yeah, just covered his lips and nose.
Oh, the mask days. I don't miss the mask days at all.
That was I can get on a soapbox about that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, then we couldn't perform. None of it. We all of a sudden, all of us were out of gigs. It was.
Yeah.
And then look, wow, they were wrong. Like none of that shit mattered. Like it. Never mind.
There's one specific day in March when everything was shutting down. Like all the gigs I had booked, text, hey, sorry, just all the way down. And
It's a dark day for entertainment. That's for sure.
Yeah, and for what? I don't know. But
It's slowly coming back, but it's not the price that you used to get paid.
Right.
Kind of like the hours. It used to be you'd play from 10 to 2.
right.
Now it's like 8 to 10 or 11.
Yeah.
That's what,
We actually get home early.
we were joking the other because we were like, we played one place and they were like, how about 6 to 9? And we were like, well, it's
Yeah.
a little bit later because once people start drinking, usually they
Right.
go later. And it was so finally we ended up playing 7 to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
We went to 1 o'clock the other night and we found out why you don't do that anymore.
Oh yeah, we sure did. They well, let's just put it this way: they spilled out onto the streets and got pursued on foot by the Wheeling's finest. However, one did stay inside, and smart Alec that we were talking about, Gage being a little smart Alec, stops in the middle of the song that he's playing and proceeds to move into "Why Can't We Be Friends?"
very cool. Well played, good sir. Well played.
We were in Undo's West. I think you're with us one night where there was a table of coal miners and a table of
Pipeliners.
pipeliners. But it was when like every pipeline was from Texas, so they came in, and I don't know what started, but there was like a rivalry between trades. All of a sudden, it just erupted in a fist fight, and Matt started singing "Jesus Loves Me" until everybody like calmed down.
Nah, some of those guys have become some of our really good friends. A lot of them, there's a fair few out of all the trades or the traveling trade that have ended up placing roots here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It seemed like when there was that first boom, you could tell when the guys were from Texas who knew they were going back to Texas. So
Oh, yeah.
they didn't really care about like maintaining relationships or anything like that.
Right.
That was when the trouble started.
it was. I heard a thing from someone in a certain city, and I won't say, but it was like they told the police to leave them alone. They said, because they're bringing this, that, and the other money. And then there was another city where the cops, or they told the cops, or the cop told somebody, or whatever, said, I expect 1 DUI arrest a week with these people. So it's like, you got one city, it's like, leave them alone. You get the other cities, like, get them.
You guys want to put a wrap up on this episode? I think we went well over an hour.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I had fun.
Thanks for coming in. We want to have you guys back soon because these are two guys bringing the new,
Yeah, absolutely.
the new wave of music to the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun.
Me too.
I'm excited for my Friday. I got
Yeah.
Lukey Burkhart's coming out of retirement.
Oh yeah,
And he's going to be at the Tiger Pub, and I'm all excited for that. And it's their 32nd anniversary. They've been in business 32 years.
what
so
day's that?
That's this Friday the 9th. So I'm
Friday the 9th.
looking forward to that. I haven't worked with Luke since his beer release party up at Hightower, and that was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
So I'm
Very
looking
cool.
forward to that. And then eventually we'll get you guys to be like some of these other podcasts, because did you see that there's going to be a beer release Saturday for a podcast here in the Valley?
I did see that.
So we got to get this thing where it's got to go, so
Right,
you
right.
can have a beer release.
That's it. Yeah, it's absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be great.
As long as it ain't Bud Light.
Here he goes.